Hello there, I'm Stuart Goldsmith. This is another clip from my Comedian's Comedian podcast. And in this clip, the fabulous Nish Kumar is going to talk to us about emotional intelligence in comedy and how he went from being extremely busy in comedy to having absolutely nothing on. Here's Nish Kumar. You've been going for how long?
Well, this is always an interesting question to ask people because there tend to be a couple of different answers. I started doing any comedy of any sort when I was at university. So I did 2 years of the Durham Review with Ed Gamble and Tom Neenan, and a couple of our other friends. So I did 2 Edinburghs there. And in my final year of university, Ed and Tom set up a stand-up night in Durham, and I did my first gigs there. So that would be possibly the back end of 2006 and maybe into 2007. Then I moved to London and I only really started on the open mic circuit in 2008. So There's a couple of different answers to that question.
Yes, okay. I think of myself as having been going for 10 years, but I've been saying that for so often it's probably 11 now, or even 12. I think it's 10 or 11. And I certainly have sort of started to... I've gone through versions of, it's all happening, and absolutely nothing's happening.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
But it feels like there's enough things happening for you at the moment in terms of the sort of the international travel and the Stuart Lee's comedy show that you were on.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the one.
It's the alternative comedy experience. Yeah.
So it feels like there are enough building blocks in place now that it's become inevitable. Does it feel like that to you, or does it feel like you're going, okay, there's a bit and a thing there, and maybe I can turn this into...
Yeah, it feels much more like that. It feels much more. It feels like I'm surviving month to month in a weird way. It feels like I don't think I'm particularly conscious of any momentum building. The thing that I feel good about is I think in the last year, I've probably produced the best stuff I've ever produced.
Yes, and I come to this conversation having just like an hour ago finished listening to the hour of your most recent Edinburgh show, Ruminations on the Nature of Subjectivity.
Correct.
Which is a title that works well when you see it next to a poster of you holding a pretentious pose, but one would assume when you don't see that poster, it just looks pretentious.
Oh, look, the whole concept was flawed. The concept was fundamentally flawed. I took a very stupid publicity shot in 2013, because Idil Sukan does all my publicity photos, our friend, does all of our publicity, and an incredible photographer, does all of my publicity shots. And both of the years, so from 2012, my first show, and then 2013, I quite enjoy deliberately messing with her and trying to put her off while she's a professional, because that's how I entertain myself. And I took a photo of myself, and she took a photo of me with my fingers up my nose, because she tried to get me to do a serious sort of look slightly off into the middle distance. And we thought nothing of it, and she included it in the press pack she sent my agent as a joke. And we saw the picture and thought, great, this is brilliant. We should definitely use this at some point for something. And it was such a stupid photo, I wanted to put a really pretentious title to it, because I immediately saw the poster. The poster looks like a kind of 1960s National Theatre thing. And it has a really dumb...
It does exactly, but I hadn't noticed that when I was looking at it. It did all that programming on me without knowing how.
It's a very specific series of images that So Idil and I then went through all of these posters. The 60s National Theatre had a sort of Bolshevik aesthetic where it's just very functional. Like there's a serious photo and the title of a serious play in black and white, so you know that it's serious. I wanted that photo, a big, heavy, pretentious title, and I was like, great, that's the poster. And then, of course, when you get to Edinburgh, there's lots of places where that photo does not appear. So a lot of people just thought I had got a little too big for my boots.
I wonder if that worked in a positive way in terms of your audience, because, like, if you'd called the show... I was
Tits and Charlie.
Yeah. If you called the show Tits and Charlie and had a sensible poster, that the joke would have worked.
Yeah.
But you might have had people turning up looking for Tits and Charlie.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas presumably your way around, at least you had intelligent people.
I had no problem with drunk people. I had one drunk guy.
Yeah, but it would be the foolhardy stag do.
I had one guy who came in, and he was this kind of older posh guy who had been hitting the Merlots a little hard that afternoon, and he was a little bit disruptive. But other than that, I had no problem. Because, what kind of group of pissed up lads thinks, I'll tell you what, ruminations on the nature of subjectivity will be the perfect aperitif for our evening at the strip club.
I mean, even if one of them had gone, let's go and ruin the contentious radio show, there's no way the others would have agreed to that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, I want to talk to you about intelligence. I think you were called fiercely intelligent in some review or other. I'm not in the business of quoting reviews particularly, but I mentioned I've just listened to your show, and I agree that it is your best show. And having not seen it, I've seen your other shows sometimes more than once.
Yeah.
This one I've just heard the audio of, and only just now. But it is incredibly. It has intelligence and it has emotional intelligence. Which of those qualities do you think is more important to you? It's intended to be a jumping off point rather than something where you go, the first one.
I got that sense. It's like when we used to get essay questions at university and you're like, whatever you do, don't just write true underneath the statement. The reason I'm not pausing is because the only thing Stuart said to me off microphone was, if you feel like you're about to say, I'm sorry, this is going to be a bit pretentious, just press on with it. So I'm trying to jump that step in my head. I think that they are both important to me because I like to do material that I guess would be considered cerebral, but at the same time, I think it's important to balance that with emotional intelligence. I think it's just the comedy I really like will often be people being very cutting about the world around them. And it's also important to me because those people that I really like are cutting about the world around them, but they are also very cutting about their own flaws. So they're as aware of their own weaknesses as they are of the weaknesses of the people or institutions they are targeting. So, and I think that it's important, if you're going to show insight about external affairs and other people's flaws, you need to have insight about your own flaws as well. I think that you can't just go, this guy's full of shit, bang, 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 joke, 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 I'm perfect. I think that for me, that would be a slightly empty experience if the whole show was just about, only because if I was perfect, emotionally stable, kind, generous person, I'd be perfectly happy calling people out on their bullshit and then ending the show there. You guys all suck, my name's Nish, good night, and just walk off. Whereas I am acutely aware of my own flaws. So it's important as much to me to highlight them as it is to highlight any problems I might have with other people. Do you recognise that as a particularly British attribute? I guess traditionally we'd call it pretty British, but at the same time, some of the comedians I'm thinking of are American, I'm thinking of someone like Louis C.K., who is very self-deprecating and aware of his own limitations. So I think traditionally we would think of it as being a British trait, but I actually think I think a lot of national stereotypes are self-perpetuating. We think of this thing as being British, so when it happens, we say, "Oh, this is incredibly British," ignoring a swathe of evidence.
Sure, but I think looking at what you just said a moment ago, which is that I tend to prefer material that could be considered cerebral. Yeah. I can't really imagine Louis C.K. saying that sentence. Do you know what I mean? I don't just mean self-deprecating. I mean there is you are a particularly British man. Yeah. Like the comic that I would most, funnily enough, and I know, I know you well, and I know that you've got a real horn for American comedy. Like you love loads of American comedy. I don't know where I just got the phrase. You've got a horn. I've got a horn. Yeah. You know me, always masturbating whilst listening to some Bob Newhart albums. The scaly horned Nish Kumar. But in terms of your influences, or in terms of a kind of a I was listening to you going, I'm sort of, hearing echoes of other tones, other comics tones and stuff, not in a pejorative way. But
here's the dirty little secret about that. Always rip off people who are a different race to you. If you rip off somebody who is a different race to you, no one will ever know.
Oh, amazing!
The number of people, white, 20-something comedians, who are being accused of ripping off Stuart Lee is eye-watering. And it's really obvious. If you're an Asian guy, make sure you rip off Stuart Lee. Because people will just go, wow, I've never...
I don't think there's anything... I don't think you're remotely like Stuart Lee. I was going to say John Oliver.
Yeah, well... Yeah,
I know you're a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
I'm not saying, hey man, you're ripping off John Oliver.
No.
I think that's the voice that I'm most... And it's interesting that you should go, oh, someone of a different ethnicity.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
For tour dates, news, updates, whatever they are, and the latest episodes of the Comedian's Comedian podcast, go to stuartgoldsmith.com.